There are moments when people stop and wonder what life would be like if the things they depend on every day were suddenly taken away. Think about waking up one morning and realizing that nothing worked the way it used to. The money in your account was gone, the credit cards you kept in your wallet did not work anymore, and the banks that you thought would always be there had shut their doors. No one could buy food, no one could pay their bills, and no one could sell anything to survive. At first, it might sound like something only found in a story or a movie, but for some people, the thought feels much more real. If you've read this and it made you stop and think, I'd love to hear what you feel about it. Do you believe something like this could really happen one day? Or do you see it more as a reminder for us to live with less trust in money and more trust in God? These kinds of stories often leave people with many different thoughts, and your voice can add something important to the conversation. It was a calm and quiet evening in Medjugorje, one of those nights when even the smallest sounds seemed to pause, and the hills stood still as if they were waiting for something from heaven. The air was soft, and the stars above shone with a gentle light, almost like tiny guardians keeping watch over the earth. In her small home, Vika had just finished her evening prayers. She felt tired in her body, yet her heart was not heavy. Instead, it was open, full of trust, almost as though she knew something special might come. When she finally closed her eyes and drifted into sleep, she did not fall into a normal dream. What happened to her that night was far stronger, far deeper. It felt more like a visit from heaven than something her mind could have created on its own. In her dream, she found herself in a place unlike anywhere she had ever seen. The whole space was glowing with a light that was gentle but strong, the kind of light that did not hurt the eyes but filled the heart with peace. The silence around her was like the silence of a church in the early morning, still and holy. She knew at once that this place was not of earth, yet she felt safe, as if she was exactly where she was meant to be. It was in this place that she saw Our Lady. No words were spoken, yet the presence of Our Lady carried such love and strength that Vika felt she had no need for words. She simply understood. She began to follow, like a daughter walking with her mother, not questioning, not afraid, but simply trusting. Together they looked down upon the earth. What Vika saw filled her with sadness. The world was moving quickly, faster than she had ever seen it before. Everywhere people were rushing, their eyes glued to screens, their hands busy with money, credit cards, and machines. Shops and banks were full, and everywhere there was noise, flashing lights, and endless movement. At first, it looked like power and progress, but as she looked closer, she saw something that broke her heart. The people were empty inside. Their faces were tired, their eyes were dull, and they clung to their possessions like they were the only things keeping them alive. But those things were fragile, weaker than they understood. Then, everything changed. It was sudden, like a light being turned off. The world that had been rushing and moving froze. Screens went dark. Phones stopped working. Credit cards became useless. Banks closed their doors. People tried to reach their money, but it was gone. Websites and machines no longer moved. Panic spread like fire. Mothers stood outside stores crying, their children in their arms, unable to buy food. Businessmen shouted into their phones, but no voice came back. Streets that had once been busy with trade and noise turned into places of fear and confusion. No one had believed such a moment could happen, but it did, and when it did, the whole world shook in silence. In that heavy silence, Vika turned in her heart toward Our Lady. Though no words were spoken, her soul asked why such a thing would be allowed. And in the stillness, she felt an answer fill her being. This was not meant to destroy, not meant to punish, but to stop people for a moment, to wake them from their endless rushing, to give them a chance to turn back, to listen again for the voice of God. Heaven had allowed the silence so that the hearts of men and women, long buried under noise and money, could finally hear what truly matters. As she looked, she saw another part of the vision, something different, something full of hope. In the midst of the fear and the darkness, there were small homes that began to shine. The light was not from electricity but from something deeper and more powerful. These homes were simple, not rich, not grand, but inside them there was peace. Families were gathered together, kneeling in prayer, holding rosaries in their hands. Parents held their children close, whispering words of comfort. Neighbors knocked on doors, bringing what little food they had to share. In those homes, voices rose in prayer, and the rosary was spoken with love and trust. Outside there was panic, but inside those walls, there was a warmth that could not be taken away. These homes were the true treasures of the world. They did not shine because of gold or wealth but because of faith. The people inside them had not prepared by gathering riches or hoarding goods. They had prepared by keeping their hearts close to God, by learning to live simply, and by trusting in Him rather than in the fragile things of earth. And when the world outside broke apart, these people had something that nothing could destroy. They had prayer, they had love, and they had trust in God. Vikas saw that these were the homes that heaven loved. Even though the earth was dark, they were full of light. These were the ones who had understood the call to prepare their souls instead of their bank accounts. They had chosen faith over fear, prayer over panic, and love over greed. In them, grace was alive, and they became the quiet answer to the world's loud emptiness. When the dream ended, Vika woke with tears running down her face. The room in Medjugorje was still, and the first soft light of morning was coming through the window. She reached for her rosary and held it tightly. In that moment, she knew more than ever that it was not just a string of beads. It was a lifeline to heaven, a chain of love that would never break, even when everything else was lost. From then on, she shared what she had seen, not to cause fear, not to make people anxious, but to remind them of what truly matters. She spoke gently and simply, urging people to keep their hearts ready, to pray with their families, to live with less, and not to place their trust in things that could disappear overnight. Because when the world stops and everything fails, the only thing that will save us is our faith, our prayers, and the love we hold in our hearts. I want to take a moment to say thank you to each one of you who has taken the time to listen, reflect, and share this journey with me. Your presence here means so much, because it shows that there are hearts in the world that are still open, still searching, and still ready to think about the deeper things of life. Every comment you share, every thought you add, and every bit of support you give helps keep this space alive and filled with light.